From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy-watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey and this is Mark.
Hiya! Tonight we're talking about Surrogates. It's a 2009 science fiction film directed by Jonathan Mostow. The writing credits go to Michael Ferris and John Brancato, who did the screenplay, but it is also based on a graphic novel by Robert Vendetta and Brad Wendell.
Or something to that effect.
That's right. I was trying to give the confidence this week, sorry, that I knew how to pronounce names. I didn't want to, hold myself back.
Well,
I'm trying to be positive.
It's pretty good. Okay, well, speaking of back, it's time to turn back now if you haven't seen this movie, because we're going to talk all about, this is a spoiler warning.
Warning.
Danger, Will Robinson.
That's right.
Turn back now.
So the synopsis or brief understanding of Surrogates is that we're in the future and it's where humans live in total isolation and interact on Facebook day in, day out. They never leave their home, and how they do that is through a surrogate robot that actually goes out. So it's like you have a little mini space brain Surrey and he goes off to work for you. And he kind of looks like a version of you, only younger and prettier, and he's got more hair and a bigger green brain.
Not possible.
Not possible. No, well, it is possible in this Surrogates future. And anyway, so that is the world that we're living in. And in Surrogates, we have a cop is actually forced to kind of leave the safety of his home to investigate the first murder that has happened in numerous years, because these surrogates, well, they can't die, they don't kill people. Safety's a lot easier to come by apparently in this world. So that's my little brief synopsis. I've kind of gone off on a little tangent because now I've thought about little mini Surreys running around everywhere.
Yeah,
it's creeped me out. That's a whole nother science fiction movie. So what was your number one takeaway from Surrogates, Surrey?
Funny thing you should say, because my number one takeaway is that the hand they use for surrogates is a surrey.
Surrey, yeah.
Numerous times I talked about, have you seen any surreys? You're going to disconnect all the surreys? And I found that amusing every time I heard it.
Yeah, and it is funny because maybe that's why I saw this movie years before meeting you back in 2009, all those years ago. And maybe I was kind of manifesting a surrey towards me. Are you real? Or are you a robot?
Well, there's a less attractive older Surrey in the bed in the room out the back there.
You're the more attractive version?
This is the more attractive I could get. Budget constraints,
Fair enough.
That's not a problem. But I need to know, hope, warning, or experiment, because I have an idea on this, but we'll see if you have agreed.
Yeah, it's always about me, sorry. Come on. I think total warning for this film, because you just have a really simple hypothetical kind of world that's created here. So we take the idea of, instead of us going out in the real world, we have a Surrey. We send them off to the world, and of course, if they get hit by a bus, well, I'm still alive in my bedroom in my pajamas. So I think this is kind of like a warning, because of course the film details that the downfall of that is, of course, that we lose human interaction between each other. We lose the touch, the feel, the emotions, living life, don't we? Because that's the thing. If we just live in a bedroom in a little cocoon, we don't get to experience the thrill of being hit by a bus or not being hit by a bus. Because I know that sounds a bit weird, but it's almost like
I get thrilled by that daily.
A near death can be like, wow, I actually feel like I'm alive. So, but I think that's that whole point, like falling in love. If we never leave home to experience life, well, you don't get to feel that, do you? That experience of life.
That's interesting. So, because I was wondering as I was watching this, hope, warning, or experiment, and there's always bits of both. But I'm going to go with experiment. This is why normally I agree because it's a very strong message in these movies.
Yeah.
But this one, because I got sucked into the philosophical discussions about mind versus body duality, and when you're meeting people anyway, you're not really meeting their inner self.
That's true.
Often live internally as a surrogate. We put on a masquerade. We have certain social airs and etiquettes that we maintain, which is not what we would prefer to do, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So I was sort of thinking this is that experiment, which is like, okay, let's turn that philosophy or that metaphor into a real physical thing that can be easily observed, like the Matrix.
Yeah.
And then we'll set up like a bit of a story in here, which is, okay, what happens then if killing someone's fake identity actually killed them as well, which is the whole thing, is that, and I'm sure it has happened, people have sadly passed away when they feel that this world that they built up around themselves has crumbled, without realizing that, as you said, it's the core of humanity inside. That's the reality. Like, so your business went broke, you're bankrupt, and you're exposed as a bit of a fraud in that business world. That has destroyed people's lives. But the reality is that it hasn't, has it?
No.
Because what's actually fallen down is this business. It's a masquerade. It's a surrogate.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people do get very tight. So experiment. I thought it was like, let's look at that with a real metaphor.
Like examine that. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. So I mean, let us know what you think, whether it was a warning, hope, or experiment. I can see Surrey's justification of an experiment. I think warning, but that's just where I sit. But where do you sit? Let us know. Hit us up on our channels and see what you think would be excellent. What was your favourite scene, Surrey?
Favourite scene? I'm going to just pick one.
Just one?
Yeah, okay. So one is where he's running through the Dread compound.
Oh, yeah.
He's only got one arm.
One arm.
But he's running. It's a whole Terminator thing.
It is. It's awesome. I like that scene.
And he slows down, and the guy whose name I can't remember turns around and faces him. He says, "Hey, stop. We need to talk." And then out of nowhere, the car just wipes him out.
Yep.
Fortunately, he just gets up and
he's just a Surrey. He's a Surrey. He can handle a car.
Continues on. But I always do like these sudden reversal scenes.
Yeah.
Where you have one thing where you think the scene is going to go one direction, and then it's just bang. It's
and even when he catches up, when he does finally catch him, then he's just blown away as well, isn't it? So it's the same. So they throw us like the filmmaker throws two things at us. Like a car hits him, and you think, oh, he's done, but then no, he hops up and runs away Terminator style, and then he's blown away with a shotgun.
But it's really good. Certainly later on, I was thinking back to that scene because it becomes the stark contrast then.
When he's human.
When he's the only real human walking around amongst all the surrogates.
Yeah.
And, like he wails on that dude doing the drugs.
Yes.
The drugs, the shocks, whatever. Yeah. And they're all laughing and they're kind of cool about it because it's like, this is a bit of a joke. And it sort of is a bit of a joke,
it is,
really.
Yeah.
There's even that football poster, play football, and then it's like there's a guy holding another person's head.
Yes.
Because clearly they don't have to hold back in football, and there's enough money involved, they can just build a new side. So no doubt they have quite violent games. So that was my favourite scene.
Awesome.
But what about you? What was something science fiction-y in this that really caught your imagination?
Well, you kind of just mentioned that scene where he's punching on with the guy, and just previous to that, it's that idea of jacking. And so I like this idea that...
Yeah, so I discovered that when I was a teenager too, but go on, tell me.
But this involves electric voltage. I don't know if you were doing that when you were doing jacking.
I was going to say...
Okay, well, a different kind of jacking than what I do. All right, fair enough. But I like that they had that little bit of, that's to me where as humans we add a little bit of a personal element. It's almost like here's robots, but if humans control robots, sex is going to be involved, nudity is going to be involved, and it was interesting that then they brought in that jacking like drugs, like so that again, like humans, we search for a high or getting drunk, and as humans that's very human, like we take ourselves and we're not happy with success, and so we get drunk, like to ruin our success or something. So I liked that in this scene that they had this element that Bruce Willis's wife, I think it was Maggie was her name, her friends had come over with a couple of guys, and they're all sitting around and they're doing this thing called jacking, which is like some sort of dildo.
I know. I thought it looked a bit like a bong.
Yeah, bong dildo thing, but it's electric, and and when they hit themselves with it, I thought it was a pretty cool special effect that then it lit up their bodies. Like it kind of sent an electric volt through their body, and you saw that. And so I really liked that. I thought that was a cool added element to not just the idea of surrogates or technology in the film, but just adding that drug extra to it.
I like the thing when it first happens, he picks it up, and I thought, oh, there's like a weird, like I thought it was a bong, because it had that sort of look as a glass sort of cylinder thing.
Yeah.
But then he puts it up to his throat, and it suddenly shocked him. And he went, and I thought, okay, something terrible has happened. Like, this is a mistake.
Yeah.
No,
he enjoyed it.
And so I like that, added that element of danger to it, because let's face it, they're robots. They could have just pushed a button and gotten some sort of a pleasure hit or something.
So then the question is, the surrogates are totally controlled by the humans, but like, what are they getting out of that then? Are they getting like a little buzz back?
I figured it must be some sort of like, it must screw with the circuits, because it's electric volt, it's screwing with the sensory inputs.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that it probably...
Because the film
makes it send back strange, visuals and sounds, and, you can imagine it screws the circuits up a bit.
Yeah, because I was interested in thinking about the little bit of the science of what this would really be like if this was our reality, is like... So you do send a surrogate out into the real world, but you must get some sort of physical sensation back. Like, let's take the example of drugs or sex or alcohol or whatever. Like, even at the very start of this film, the young guy goes into the club, he starts dancing with the girl, and he starts like making out with her. Like, the surrogates are making out, and yes, they're in the brain and they're looking through it, but they must get visual.
Yeah.
Sorry, not visual. So they're getting visual content back, but there must be more to it, right? There must be like some sort of physical tingling or something.
When Brucey is out in the real world, they take him into like a quick model. He's trying to find another quick replacement.
Yeah.
And it was like a cheapo one. And he said, I feel numb. He said, well, it's cheap. For an upgrade, you can get sensory input.
Yeah. So
which is one of the, again, I found funny, was like, it's just a software upgrade. So that thing is already able to do all of that. Yeah. You're just purposely blocking the capability.
Yes.
But
that would make sense in a monetary...
Well, they'd certainly do it. Well, the Tesla does it.
Yeah, and phones, right? Phones, if you just take phones now, like you could spend $50 on a phone and it's a phone. But if you want it to like go on the internet and you want to take good photos and then you want to share that, you pay more and more, right? Yeah. So it's the same, like, or a car or anything.
Well, I was more thinking specifically the Tesla, the Model 3 and the Model S. You buy the base...
Terminators, the Terminators machine.
Yeah, the Model T1000. Yeah. So because the base model comes with X whatever, you pay $4,000 and they will upgrade the software to be more fuel efficient, basically, or faster, accelerating, or enable... It's a bit of a dick move, Tesla, if it's not like less fuel efficient. They should make them all the same, but fuel efficiency. Yeah, you can literally just pay the capability is already there in the car. You got to pay to have it unlocked. And there are hackers, of course, who have found ways to unlock that. No doubt in surrogates there would be hackers there who would be finding ways to enhance their bodies.
And that's probably the way to push this movie into another realm, is like then add in a hacker, add in something that would like like a guy, like that's the thing. They went to that cheap shop where the guy was selling, the porn models, basically. I don't know if you thought that, but it was like all those robots in that cheap shop. I was like, these guys are all like the porn stars, aren't they?
I think they're like the
chiseled dudes, women with huge breasts.
They're the equivalent of the the done up Commodore, which is a car here in Australia, or the in America it'd be like the Camaro, like the done up one where someone's put a body kit on it and lowered the springs, and they've tried to make it look a bit more
and
sporty.
And then they're reselling that,
but it kind of has a bit of a cheap look to
it. Yeah,
I'm sorry for anyone who's gone out and bought an old Falcon or whatever and then souped it up. But basically, if someone said, no, here's a Ferrari, you'd go, yeah, okay. And there's a difference in the way it looks. And it's the same with these surrogates here. They had as you said, they had that sort of obvious good looks.
Obvious good looks,
the expensive models would be the ones that looked classically charming, something they were attractive, but not obvious.
Well, when they went into the VSI headquarters, and that's the place that makes, is the key company, I suppose. It's the Apple of technology. It's like, you saw them on those big TVs and they were like, model this, and, it's the girl in the bikini. They look high end, didn't they?
Yeah, they were the sports cars.
They were the sports cars versus what we're walking in here. So what about, my question to you, sorry, was this your first time watching Surrogates?
Yes, it was.
So for me, I think it was my third time. I don't really know why, because it's only been 2009, but I feel like I did watch this. I think my wife and I watched it just, I was like, oh, this would be cool. Watched it. And then I think I watched it a couple of years later, and enjoyed it again. And then obviously it came up for us. I suggested it for us to watch this time, especially because you had mentioned you hadn't watched it. I think for me, it's interesting because when I first watched this, I think I saw it around 2009, 2010, pretty current to when it came out. What really stood out to me was like the surrogate thing to me was a bit of a connection to cloning, like that technology of cloning. And that was kind of like a trendy, maybe, no, I don't know if it was trendy in 2009, 2010, but that's what I was thinking. Whereas this time I saw it, and I kind of was like, oh my goodness, it's the way that we are with our phones and with Facebook
online,
and
social media.
People are kind of locked in. And even when you think about, because part of this film, without going into, they don't get deep on it, of course, but part of this film is what we're just saying. Like these models in the store look like souped up Holdens, whereas these other models look like Ferraris. Well, it's why are we looking at it? Why are we interpreting it that way? It's the same as in this film on. The analogy of that is the same on Facebook or social media. Like we look at things and it's like, everyone is posing on Facebook and other social media in their best possible photo, or they're taking 10, I'm guilty of it. You take 5 photos and you pick the best one, right? So it's like, so this film, when I watched it this time, a few nights ago, I was really like, wow, this is a real analogy for social media in the way that we're posing online and people are presenting their best self. No one's really presenting their worst self. And even when they do present their worst self, there's probably something in it for them that they're presenting their worst self. And then even on top of that, the way advertisement works on social media and stuff, it's like it's all really tailored to you. And I was like, wow, this world in Surrogates could be an analogy just for the way we are with our phones.
I think so. And I think you get a similar situation where people also then on social media, if they're only interacting through social media, they don't tend to connect or reveal anything about themselves too much.
They don't.
And I've found that myself.
Yeah.
I've tried to engage someone in conversation, and for whatever reason, it always misses the mark.
Yeah.
It really does. If you try to do anything deep, someone will either think you're attacking, and then they'll go, turn to the big flame war, and they'll immediately accuse you of being Hitler. I mean, sure, I did suggest that perhaps we should all be tall, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, but I didn't, I only said that from the point of view that we would look good in swimsuits.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I know.
But also I did start... No. And, okay, moving on.
Moving on, because you made me feel a bit creepy now.
Yeah, that is a little bit creepy, I got to say. But, yeah, it never comes across, and I always feel like that I haven't been able to express myself, I haven't been able to connect with this other person, because I've either been misinterpreted or there's simply not enough room, written words... very difficult to portray
Well,
complex concepts in a short space.
I agree with you there, but I think we've almost gone a little bit even beyond that. Sorry, now that you know, like I post a photo, like, oh, I'm having a rough day with my baby, and then the people I'm connected to are like, poor you, I'm sorry, hugs, love to you, you know, like that, and then the opposite is also true. Like, oh, look at me, I've won this competition, or I've done this thing really good, or Space Brains has now got 1,000 people listening to it, which it does, and so you're just one of them. And then like the thing with that is then everyone is looking at that and going, oh wow, Space Brains have 1,000 people listening to it. That's really successful. Oh wow, we should share this and it should be bigger than what it should be. Yes, it should be. But the whole point there is like we're getting this like fake mirages, aren't we? You know, we're not getting the reality of it. Like we're not actually seeing that you and I work hard and we record things and we edit things and we put things together, and you know, there's a lot of effort involved. And likewise, if you're raising a child, like, yeah, if it's a good day, bad day. So it's this weird fakeness that is going on. So when you're saying having a true conversation with someone through social media, I don't know if that's possible, to be honest.
I don't think so.
And if you are interested, it's not science fiction because it's all about Facebook, Instagram, blah, 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 is the documentary Social Dilemma, which is available on Netflix. If you check that out, it basically your initial reaction is that you want to delete it all because it's awful. So go check that out and see what you think.
So you immediately post, well, I'm deleting Facebook. You can all, right. You know how to get in touch with me.
Yourself.
And then you get like 100 likes and you go, ooh.
Yeah. Oh, I won't do that.
I'm going to do another post similar to
about
that.
I hate Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing that we, that we want to go about. So was that your experience from watching it the first time?
First time, yeah, I liked... My experience basically was, first of all, that it's like Bruce Willis does policeman who's struggling well. Like that's his golden ticket, isn't it? That's what he is. That's like he's won.
He needs to also get beaten up, doesn't he? He needs to have like it goes back to Die Hard. This is the whole thing with him. Like he needs to be bleeding at some point.
He needs to have hungover. He's got to look hungover in some way.
And he's also got to be like a bit rough and ready, unlike maybe what a policeman is really like. You know, like he's got to kind of be like the leather jacket and the untucked shirt and the...
Well, that's because he's honest.
Yeah.
He's silent.
I don't know why that means honesty. I don't think it means honesty. I think it means like down to earth. Yeah, he's an everyday Joe.
He's grounded. He's not really presenting.
Grounded's a good word. Yeah, he's in touch with the everyday person. But he's always got to be like punched in the head or something, doesn't he? Like I don't know if he's a great fighter, but he's always got to be bleeding, doesn't he?
He can't I think he acts best when he is damaged.
Yeah, he's damaged.
Like you watch any of his movies where you appreciate it. He's struggling. He always has that. He's got a headache, or he's been slapped about, or he's
this is a little
limping a bit, or something. Yeah.
And let's put a little hashtag here. Anyone that's a writer out there, and I read this myself many moons ago, and I never realized after watching Die Hard freaking 100 times when I was a kid, but I read it in this writing book, and I was like, it's so true, is in Die Hard, he has no freaking shoes.
He has no shoes
and so it's like the writer has brilliantly put him in a position where, you know, he's stuck in the air vents and, you know, he's got no power technically over these powerful terrorists. And on top of that, he's got no freaking shoes. And then, of course, he's got to walk through broken glass and he's got to climb through things, and he's like constantly like bleeding and injured because he doesn't have any freaking shoes on. So it's just like it's like kicking the hero in the balls and like giving him an injury to begin with. Like, you know, so he's already down compared to the bad guy, right? So I just want to put that as a little footnote. Footnote received.
Noted the joke, yes. So, what's any recent sci-fi stuff you've been getting involved in?
No.
No.
I have been talking about this doco idea, but I've decided, I've been researching it, I've actually decided to stop it. So I'm actually putting myself in the tracks. I've had some really good sudden success, which I know you shared through your social media.
Ah, yes. Just trying to amplify your excellence.
That's right, yeah. The Memory short film's been finalist now, and also selected for another festival, which is really super exciting. We had a couple of rejections, so it was awesome to get a couple of positives. So who knows what's going to happen with that? And that's got the whole crew all buzzing and exciting, which is awesome. I've just decided after doing a bit of research with the doco that I'm not going to go ahead with it. So I'm going to go back to my narrative writing again.
Yep.
So the plan this side of 2020, before we head over into God knows what 2021's bringing us, but the plan will be to kind of just super focus on the writing again. So I did mention earlier in the year that the next short film is probably going to be a science fiction time travel one. So I'm going to like get back into that script.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So it is science fiction related when I come full circle like that. And how about yourself?
Through time.
Yeah, that's right. Through time. How about yourself? Science fiction related.
Science fiction. No, I'm just about to finish my novella. It was supposed to be a short story. Hansel and Gretel retelling.
That's right. Yes,
it is a bit science fiction. It's in an alternate universe. It's going to become a TV pilot on Netflix next week. No, it's not really going to. But yeah, that's just about finished. That's pretty good. And I'm recording my audiobook. So I'm just about done with all that. So that, like you, 2021,
clean slate.
There's going to be some new novels projects in there. Oddly enough, as much as I love science fiction, I don't tend to write it. I write in a genre I don't read.
Yeah.
I don't even read contemporary fantasy. Harry Potter might have been the most only exception. But
interesting,
I love writing it, even though I don't read it.
Yeah.
I read science fiction. I write contemporary fantasy, which is... But anyway, there you go. But maybe I've been meaning to do some science fiction. I was going to put something together, see what happens.
So do you think that Surrogates could be a real scenario in the future, Surrey?
I think if we had the technology, we would rush into it just as quickly. That took them 14 years. Well, say 14 years ago was our current state-of-the-art technology. It took them basically 7 years from the full rollout of Surrogates to where they were in the film. And I think it would be that quick or quicker.
Well, when you think about like the iPhone, right, and Web 2.0, we'd had all that, like, Web 1 was like 20 years in the making. But then once we got Web 2.0...
10 years in the making. 1995 was it roughly. The real pickup of the first...
Yeah, but it was already sort of
2005,
before that, right?
Yeah.
I won't get... Let's not go into the details.
Okay.
I've got some numbers, but let's not get into an argument over that.
But from 2006...
it was earlier than that to Web 2.0.
Yeah, I'm saying with the iPhone came out 2006.
iPhone, right, yeah. So the iPhone comes out and it's like... Bang! Like within a couple of years, it's just exploded, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We are all walking around with
within
this little
3
mini
years.
computer.
Within 3 years, the iPhone destroyed Flash media.
Yeah.
Which used to be still some, but previously all the interactive, maybe game-like stuff on those animated ads and stuff you'd see on your website was Flash. The iPhone came out, and it's about 3 years it got killed.
Yeah.
When Jobs basically said, I will never put Flash on the iPhone. Good move too, by the way. And it just killed it.
Yeah.
So you imagine Surrogate comes out, we are making these available to the public for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Why would you not get one?
No, I know.
Even because you would get people who would hold out.
Yeah.
But everyone's getting there. So I would definitely say we would be there soon as we had the capabilities. Bang, we'd be in it.
Yeah.
And I can see we would have social disruption of the same sorts, because that level of technological alteration, social alteration would just be, you would end up with some sort of revolution.
Yeah, and also people not uptaking, because, for example, my parents don't have mobile phones.
What's wrong with a normal phone?
That's right. They barely use their normal phone.
I'm
like,
hardly
it's hard enough,
mobile.
It's hard enough to convince them. Like, you ring their normal phone, you ring it out, you get to the message, you're like, hello, is anyone there? You can hear me. Are you going to pick it up? You going to pick it up? Pick it up. You're not going to pick it up? Okay, I'm hanging up right about now. Hello? You're like, okay, you're there. yeah, what were you doing? Oh, we're out in the back somewhere. We didn't hear the phone ring. We tried to get to it as fast as we... So you could imagine them with surrogates. I mean, that would just...
No, not at all. And yeah, there are plenty of people like that.
But they wouldn't probably be the people in like this movie with the prophet. Like they wouldn't move in with that person either. So that's
well, he only had a few extremists really.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot. But the movie at the start implied that in every capital city in America there was kind of these little
enclaves.
Yeah, spaces.
Reservations.
Yes. Very
so
political.
let's get straight in. We started talking about the plot here. Let's get straight in there.
Yep.
And power our way through here because it's a very, it's a cop show.
It is.
But it requires the science fiction elements in order for the story to unfold.
So we mentioned before Jonathan Mostow is the director. He's directed a few films. He directed a film that I really loved. It's not science fiction, called Breakdown.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was like Debbie Does Dallas or something like that.
No, sorry, come on. Breakdown. I'm not going to admit that here, but it's Kurt Russell, Breakdown, and Meatloaf. It's a good 90s like thriller thing. And we mentioned before as well, writing by Michael Ferris and John Bratcato. I'm going to mispronounce them on the second round.
Bobby Venditti.
And that's based on a graphic novel by Robert Vendetto and Brett Welldale. And of course, we've mentioned the great Bruce Willis. The Australian actress Radha Mitchell plays Peters. It's a bit confusing. And we also have another Australian actor, James Cromwell. That would do, Pig.
That'll do.
And I'm saying that because that is the farmer from Babe. A great movie.
Oh, I thought it was just because I was about to shove this donut to my face.
Well, yeah, of course. And of course, Ving Rhames, who we always like Ving Rhames. He's always that added on guy, eh? Like he's always that added on guy. And he plays the prophet. So we mentioned that the story talks about 14 years ago is when surrogates are born or invented. And very rapidly, we have this opening montage.
I'm going to just jump straight in here because there's something.
You're going to pause me already?
This movie impressed me right from the start. They could have had text. It could have said 14 years ago, surrogates were developed from a technology.
Like in Finney, which we did last episode, had some text.
Instead, being a visual media, they told us through images.
Yes.
Where they showed you little news clips and reports and... Yeah, and real stock footage.
It's the same technique as the writing, but they're adding in a bit of visual element, aren't they?
Yeah, but at least that's that. And, again, I'm wondering how you needed that was. Yeah. Really? Because it would have been interesting. I mean, not every movie can start off sort of in media res and you've got to try and piece it together as you get to about the 10-minute mark. But
I do always think, unfortunately, once we talk about big commercial films, I think producers are quite often scared to go into like, you could have started this film with, the young man talking to his father and he gets murdered, right? Yeah. And then it's like revealed that they're surrogates, they're machines, right? But like, I think producers are so scared to jump into that, aren't they? They like, the audience needs some sort of background, needs some sort of introduction,
Yeah.
Which for you and I, as big space brain nerds, we wouldn't mind jumping into the deep pool, but some people need to put their toes in the water,
but I think
they need to ease.
They did this well in that it wasn't just a bunch of text on the screen just telling me stuff.
Yeah.
It was shown, and I do like the movies where they do show you
not tell
what happens. And so, because we talked about that with that Destination IO, where she got the emails.
Yeah.
And she was just reading text.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going, it's a movie.
Yeah. Why didn't they show us
a dramatization or something?
Yeah.
But anyway, 14 years ago, surrogates
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's the same in Planet of the Apes, isn't it? Like they do that idea of like news, it's like apes and they sort of do us like this film, like where they do show us news clippings of the world kind of deteriorating or whatever. I think Planet of the Apes does that, I'm pretty sure by memory.
Yeah, so 14 years ago, Surrogates born. We get these news clips telling us about this thing, and we go straight into the young man. We have no idea who he is.
No.
He's in a very fancy limo.
Yeah, I think it's
being
a Rolls
driven
Royce.
through, and he's talking to, I assumed his dad.
Yeah.
I don't know if he actually said dad, but you got the idea that was it. And he says, hey, thanks for lending me this one. I was getting really bored studying at uni or whatever it was. And at that point, it was not 100% clear of what he was lending.
No.
But since we had that surrogate intro, I kind of went, okay, it must be the body, I suppose. And
they're talking about going to the opera.
Going to see Tosca, and then, very, very cultured. He's driving along, but when he hangs up from his father...
Well, hang on. I just want to say, before he goes, what happens in Tosca? And, and the father says... They all die in the end.
Just like everything else.
Oh, don't spoil it now. Sorry.
I didn't pick that one up.
I know. It's a great line when you think about what actually happens.
And then the motorcyclist comes along.
Yes.
So we see
he's being followed.
Car drives past, and then a guy on a motorbike comes zipping past.
Sinisterly
following he's a bad boy because it's all black.
He's all black.
But he's not all black like in a cool leather-clad way. He's in an all-black kind of a bit scruffy-looking way.
Yeah, he's a bit scruffy, and he's following this Rolls Royce limo thing.
Yeah, I think it's a Rolls Royce.
I think it's Rolls Royce, yeah.
And
I'm going to say it is.
And then the guy says, let's actually go to this nightclub instead.
Yeah. Fort
Point?
Point.
And they do a U-turn and go down, and the bike chases them.
I don't feel like opera.
And then they cut to the
goes
club,
into this club, and he does a weird thing, doesn't he?
All beautiful people dancing.
Yeah, everyone is good looking.
Yeah,
but he does this weird thing, like he climbs above the dance floor, and you kind of think, is he about to jump? And he does.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, oh, he's going to kill himself or something. But he jumps into this crowd, from a couple of floors up. But he just lands and starts dancing.
Yes, and everyone cheers.
And everyone cheers. And everyone's like, and it's weird dancing, isn't it? It's robotic.
Yeah, the
mannequin kind of dancing,
moving their heads around.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, no one is actually doing the robot dance.
No,
that would be too on the nose. I think.
I think that would be too on the nose. But they're not very fluid. That's what I noticed. It's very rigid sort of dancing.
Yeah, it didn't look like the sort of dancing that I've seen in nightclubs, which tends to be a little bit less coordinated.
When was the last time you went?
It was back when Vera Lynn was singing, accompanied on the piano. No.
Fair enough.
We'll meet again.
Anyway, he picks up this gorgeous blonde and starts making it. They dance and then they start making out and they fly into the alleyway. And they're really passionately making out. And she is beyond gorgeous, supermodel gorgeous. And she's also not really wearing much, which was something I picked up on, of course. And so they're making out. And then this is where the motorbike guy kind of walks up to them. He turns around and kind of says, "Get lost, meatbag."
Meatbag.
Which is kind of okay, that's just whatever. But it comes back around through the film Meatbag. And then the meatbag fires a laser gun. You don't really see it because then the camera jumps outside the alleyway and it's just this big,
blue energy.
Almost like Back to the Future, time travel flash through the sky.
Yeah, big burst of blue energies that kind of goes everywhere.
Yeah, and then he's just running out and gets on the motorbike, takes off. There's a bit of an accident. But he's fanged it out of there.
Oh, yeah, and the accident wipes out a few people.
It does. And this is where we see that one of the people is cut in half and he's a robot. He's got these guts, these robotic guts.
Robot guts. We know what robot guts look like. They're green or blue.
Green.
These ones were green.
These ones are green in this film. Yeah. And anyway, in arrives two beautiful looking police officers.
Although Bruce Willis with hair always looks funny.
He does, but that's the thing. He's got hair and he's very soft. He's photoshopped. His face
I know.
is photoshopped.
And everyone has that beautiful soft gleam. I noticed there's a particular distinction between meatbags who look like you and I with the little
Wrinkles
creases
and the creases,
whiskers.
No one has wrinkles.
And they were all mannequin smooth with a sheen. They were all sort of reflected just a little bit.
Yeah, but I think that's what's clever about this film is in this start bit, this first sort of 12 minutes of the film, everyone is like that. So it's hard as an audience to, even though you understand this idea of like surrogates in a way, hypothetically, because everyone is surrogates. You're not sure is that the reality. And it did make me think, that the first time I watched this, I remember, I think, seeing that opening and getting to the point where Bruce Willis comes out, and I think even like turning to my wife and saying, oh, is this going to be a bit off, this film, because Bruce Willis doesn't look like that. You know, I was kind of sucked a bit in, like, and thinking, is he going to look like this for this whole film? Like,
that would be weird.
That would be weird. Like, and I kind of was a little bit almost turned off. So, but this time around, knowing what's going to happen, it was a bit like, oh, this is kind of cool that he looks like that. He's so soft. It's Bruce Willis Photoshop.
And he's walking so upright and poised and with such posture.
Yeah. And I think that the hair thing is so obvious because we all know that he has no hair. And it's like, it's great that it's like, he's got this lush set of hair, you know. Radha Mitchell, to me, that's Radha Mitchell. She's a hot Australian actress, you know, like, so it's like, well, that's what she looks like. That's what she looks like. You know, that's why they've cast her.
The thing I like, they walked up and, the detectives say to the uniformed officer on there, says, so what's going on? I said, well, I thought it was just a bit of vandalism. Like three people got squished by a broken car. But that's why they said that the crime rate, violent crime has dropped because
it's not people.
When you're destroying these things, the surrogates don't transmit all the pain to the people. No. And
so it becomes less of a pain.
You're breaking someone's property. It's destruction of property at the worst.
Yeah.
So but he says, I thought it was just vandalism. But here's something, and so it takes him around. There's a couple of bodies on the ground.
Yep.
And they've got no eyes, and old Peters says, "Oh, this one's going to need some new optics."
Yes.
Like this sort of this offhand thing, which to me, watching this, it's like everyone, that seems a bit callous, except that they are robots, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I knew that the operators were dead.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be much of a movie if the operators weren't dead. They're just like, that's the end of the film.
Your robot's got their eyes burnt out. Yeah. But at this point, they don't 100% know that. They know that something's gone wrong, but they don't know that. So it's kind of like they're treating it like damaged property. They have these burnt out black eyes, and then they can't identify the young man. So again, there's a bit of mystery there. He's an unregistered surrogate, but the woman they can. So they head to her house.
Cam Jones or something.
And they head in, and the mystery here is, of course, then they find the controller, and it's a big, huge, fat man.
Opposite of the beautiful woman.
Mm.
And that's, of course, why I think they said that the crimes of things like discrimination so the drop, because people... it is much like online. Yeah. People don't pick on people for their avatar online. It's they try to guess it at the person behind the avatar. Yeah. And if you've done it right, they always get it wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the case here. It's like basically these people are it's just some hot shit. And I have to admit, like, if you had the money, you'd have a range of bodies, wouldn't you?
You would.
You go, wonder what it's like being like really tall, or short, or a woman, or a man, or
or Bruce Willis got hair,
a powerful athlete, or it'd be your fantasy sort of thing, just to go out as this sort of person.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean...
Because we're also talking about a society where that has been pushed to the extreme. Like, even the everyday person, like, that is commented that Radha Mitchell says it to him that later in the film, you do look like your avatar, like, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Whereas most people make their avatars look a bit different, because we all do. We're like, I don't like my nose or my chin or whatever, so I'll change that. And, of course, it ends up not looking like you. Whereas Bruce Willis is it pretty much looks like him, but he's got hair.
He's got hair. He's obviously like the hair bit.
And younger.
And smooth skin. But so they go track down Cam, and they go, okay, they discover that Cam's really properly dead.
And he says he says to his boss that we've got our first homicide.
First homicide.
You know, how long has it been? And there's no answer to that question. 14 years. Exactly when surrogates were born. So they go to VSI here, and the VSI guy has lawyers, and when they're questioning them, they basically, and I like this because it's just setting the tone of the story of the surrogates, and they say, no, that's impossible. Like, surrogates have jumped off bridges and they've, been shot and they've been exploded, and the owners are totally fine. So it's not at all possible for this to happen, and they sort of shrug it off.
Mind you, as a software programmer, it really bugged me when they said, "Oh, nothing's gotten past their safeguards."
No,
they're fail safes, and I was like, yeah, like the number of times I've thought I've written software that had fail safes and it would definitely work, and the very first error message in my log when I start the application up is that very thing that should never happen.
But it's the ultimate. This is the standard response of any of these companies, and it's like even Apple or Samsung. Remember when Samsung had those phones blowing up on people, whatever it was, the S9 or something, like in the first couple of months.
The Galaxy Note.
The Galaxy Note, like in the first couple of months, it set a hotel room on fire and this and that. The first people, and they were like, "No, it doesn't do that." Like that's the first response. Like they don't never admit to it.
We've done extensive testing, and
it's fine.
It's barely ever killed anyone in a fire.
The extensive tests are on the public for the first couple of months, and if it lasts that, it's good to go.
Yeah,
if it doesn't, recall it. Yeah. But also, like, it's very similar to other films like this, like iRobot. The idea in that, and we need to do that film actually, sorry, at some point. But in that, the impression is that the robot kills a human when in fact that breaks the rules of robotics, which we have talked about on this show before. And so, like, straight away, the company that creates the robots, it's the same scene, actually. Like the scene they say to Will Smith in that movie, "Oh, no robot kills a human. Like, that's impossible. Like, it breaks the rules."
Yeah.
It's a very, like, you're wasting your time. What are you doing here? Go investigate the murder, but not here.
That's why, of course, they went down to engineering level.
Yes.
When they left the lawyers, because, and this is the thing, if you go talk to my bosses in business land, they'd say, software doesn't have any problems, it's all perfectly fine. Come down and talk to you. And I say,
well, have you got permission? I did feel that it was kind of funny that they did that in this film, and like the guy never asked, "Do you have permission?" Like,
exactly. Like if the police came and asked me, like where I work, they said, "Hi, this is so and so. We're from the federal police. We'd like to ask you some questions just about the software and the market." I would say, I'm really not in a position to talk to you about that. You'd have to talk to, you have to talk to this fellow. I was about to say his name, but I won't. No. He's like the head of PR and media relations. You got to just talk to him because I'm not trained. I'm not trained for that.
I guess if it was Bruce Willis and they turned around and said to you, "We've already talked to him and he sent us to you," you might then go, "Oh, okay."
Well, some people I would. We've been well trained.
But if it's Bruce Willis,
we've been well trained that we're not allowed to say anything that hasn't been officially.
Even where I work, man, we've had that email 3 or 4 times. Like, you never answer questions from journalists or the police and stuff.
If it's not publicly available, you don't say it. No. And if it is publicly available, just point them to the publicly available information.
And then they might come back around to you. Anyway, we're going down a weird path now.
Oh yes, but yes, he asked and it's funny because he's this tall, like notably tall
black man,
smooth, glistening, handsome skinned face.
Yeah.
Handsome face with glistening smooth skin.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which way around you do it.
Sounds
but
good.
his little ID badge has like a
scrawny little
nerdy white dude with glasses and balding on top. The opposite, the polar opposite.
Which again reflects what you said before, that if you could, you'd probably have a go at a surrogate that doesn't look anything like you.
I'd love to have a see what it's like being like 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to find out.
Mm.
And so it's, but then he talks and looks at the ID chip and finds it's been fried out. He says the only other thing we've had, this is the military returned a couple of G.I. Joes, he says, with the optics missing.
That's right, yeah.
And so they go, next stop is the military.
But in between that, he... good old Tom is at home. He wakes up at home, And
we see his real self.
yeah, we see
Which
his
looks,
real.
it's the Bruce Willis where
Bruce Willis we know
he's
him
looking rough.
Yeah.
He's not properly shaved, and he's a bit grubby looking, and he's wearing a bathrobe.
I feel a bit for the actors in this film because the ones that had to play like themselves as the rougher version, I think they really upped the ante. Because especially Bruce in this moment, I think later he probably doesn't look too bad. He looks like Bruce Willis, but they deliberately kind of made them all look a little bit rough on the side of their other versions. And so when he wakes up out of his computer bed, whatever you want to call it, he looks a bit rough, doesn't he?
A bit rough. He staggers out. He goes. He walks past his wife's room, like another room where he sort of looks at the door, doesn't do anything, and he walks on and he looks into another bedroom, which is clearly some
a kid's room.
And I got to say, I don't think it's healthy to maintain a bedroom the way it was when they died. Because you'd do this, wouldn't you? You'd walk up and you'd pick up the toy or the ball. In this case, because it's American, a baseball and mitt. And I've got to ask some American dads out there if that's really that common that you could throw the ball. Is it that common? Let me know, because I suspect it's not, or it depends on where you come from in America.
This is supposed to be common. Boston, which I think Boston is a big baseball place.
That would be the Boston Blue Jays.
No, the Boston Sox, I think, isn't it? From the movies I've seen, I think it's the Boston Sox.
I seem to think there's
Sox,
Red Sox or something involved.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I guess the thing is, Surrey, if you did the equivalent here, you might do in WA, over in Sydney, you might do a rugby ball, and here you do like a football ball.
Yeah, AFL
but
ball.
Does every home have it? No. Like, even I am into football, but I don't even do it with my kids. But it's just the symbol of it.
It is, because, and this is sad, because he picks it up and looks at it, and it's sort of think, dude, you've got to get rid of all that, because every day you're going to come out and look at that.
Yeah.
And you're going to be giving yourself PTSD here. You're going to be reliving the pain and trauma.
But then in these examples, maybe that is also a character trait, isn't it? It's like no, they haven't moved on. They have not moved on.
No, Bruce Willis has never moved on.
He never moves on. He holds a grudge.
So
he, a car accident.
He walks
I hate all cars.
out of there, and his wife comes out.
Yeah.
But she's like a model. She's like
a good-looking
immaculately dressed, looks immaculate.
Yeah, boobs out.
But
hair done,
and he talks to her, but there's clearly a distance between the two of them, and he wants to go on a holiday, and she says, "Yeah, how about Hawaii? Yeah, there's some rental models over there. Rented this big surfing guy," and he says, "No, just us, like really." And she's like, "Oh, don't be ridiculous."
Yeah, she doesn't want to do it. He wants to go real with his wife, and she doesn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then back to the case. The two of them, so Peters and Greer, Willis, determine that the person that was behind the laser gun, they come across that it's this Miles Strickland.
Strickland.
Yeah.
Yes, that was his name, Miles.
And they realise that he's not using. They came across it that he had been arrested and then released without really any clear reason why he was released. So this is why he kind of was flagged. I think Peters sort of was researching and found this guy, and he's used some sort of weapon to disable the surrogate system, and then therefore kills the operators. So that's the system that they've realised is that this is the person. They've got an image of him, good old mugshot. So they run it through the system, and this is where we learn
the system is a whole bunch of surrogates.
Surrogates,
really stripped. They're stripped down surrogates, aren't they?
Which they would be.
Eyes on a torso, looking at monitors,
and there's people behind them.
So rather than using AI facial detection, they're actually using people.
Yeah.
Who are? They mentioned that one of the guys, Jeff or Joe or Jerry, or one of his best searchers is just retired on a beach in Maine. He sits in his pajamas and does this work,
And we have this head IT guy that's sort of overseeing it all, which is basically a chubby version of you, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, chubby. It's pretty big. But I think they chose him because they could have easily just chosen a rather ordinary looking person.
Yeah.
But this is clear that in theory,
Yeah.
no one would choose their surrogate to be so awkward.
No, so he's a real guy.
So he's clearly a real guy, and he explains that they haven't been able to create a surrogate that can keep everything in his brain.
But he's also like that character has been in not that actor. I'm talking about actor. I'm saying the character. There's other films I've seen. There's this guy. There's this IT guy, big fat dude, and he's like Brainiac. And even Jurassic Park, in a way, is that same idea. Like there's always this like big fat guy that's like running the IT department or surveillance department or something, and I think the impression in Hollywood is they're big and fat because all they're doing is sitting there on computers. They don't do anything else in their life, and so they're just huge, aren't they? You know, it's funny.
In my IT department, no, that's not the case. Everyone
you guys do
plays hockey, goes running, works out of the gym, does boxing and all.
Well, this is the Hollywood version of you, Surrey. This is how Hollywood see you. So just give up, put on the weight, grow the beard, untuck the shirt.
Do they pay better? I'm holding in. I'm wearing a corset at the moment.
Anyway, so Tom attempts to... and we also reveal that Surrey can actually pause the surrogates. And this is a bit of a grey area.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I liked that he's like, it's morally grey.
There's an assault ongoing.
Yeah, it's terrible what he pauses. You would go, yeah, you would pause that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like you have the power to do that.
And he says, don't worry, we're the good guys.
Yeah. But Peter, and that's the thing, Peter's questions, she goes, you can do that? Like, are you allowed to do that? And he's like, nah, we're the good guys. Yeah. and it's a good thing. Like, there's these two men that are going to assault this woman, and he just, pauses them, he pauses them in midair. And then she gets away. So it's like a good thing, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but then that means he could pause anything, right? And this is always, it's a 1984 thing. It's like, once the power shifts to that ability, where does it stop, right?
It's not long until we have problems.
Well, because, what he stops is a good thing, but, what if you were asking for a promotion and they did it, or you were asking out someone that he likes and he pauses you so that you can't ask them out or can't ask them to be your wife or something, so it's where does that go, isn't it? It's where does that power go? We lose our individuality. And that's the problem. That's always the rebuff of AI technology, of course, is that we lose us, our humanity.
Finally.
Jesus. Drop mic. I'm done for the night.
Yes, done.
Anyway, so Tom, apparently there's more to this story. Tom attempts to, go get Miles Strickland. And this is where we get this awesome... I think it's just Hugh Bruce Willis action scene. Isn't it?
They put out the APB on him, and the uniformed police track him down and chase him.
They're never going to get him.
He goes down in an alleyway. Whole bunch of the cops down there, and Bruce is flying in on a helicopter to join the pursuit. And then this guy's cornered in the alleyway with a whole bunch of cops there, and he just turns around and unleashes the gun. And you realise how dangerous this thing is because he just blasts. I think there were 5 of them.
5.
And they all just zapped out, their eyeballs popped, and the streams of power went everywhere. And not only that, then the helicopter came over, and he turned the gun on the helicopter with Bruce Willis in it, who quickly, fell to the side and took his thing off before he got hit by it. But the pilot was not so lucky, and the helicopter's flying down into dread territory, which is the reservation of humans who aren't surrogated. and then he pops his... They're not surried, they're unsurried. He's unsullied by unsurried. And he puts his little headset back on again and rejoins, and his body's thrown clear of the helicopter. It loses an arm, and now we get action sequence. And I quickly checked the timing of this because I'm always curious to know, the beats. This was just coming up to the midpoint. So this really is, as you said, the promise of the premise is okay, so you can do all sorts of dangerous stuff. You can do stuff that you couldn't do as a human.
Yeah.
This chase scene embodies the whole thing.
Yeah. Cue Bruce Willis against a human who's kind of from the reservation idea that's blowing people apart, and he's wandered into their territory, hasn't he? So it's again, like we said at the start, he runs and he jumps from sea container. It's all old school shit in this place as well, if you notice. He's jumping from sea container to sea container. Things are broken. Things are busted. He does some Terminator shit here. That's cool.
The guy he's chasing twists his ankle on a rock, on a brick, and then Bruce Willis, I suppose, to match him,
on top of him,
goes onto a girder which gives way, and then he falls and goes dum 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 dum. So like the guy who twisted his ankle is like hobbling along, and Bruce Willis just fell from 3-4 stories up and banged on every branch of the ugly tree.
He just stands up, you know.
And he stands up and starts chasing him again.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, and as you mentioned before, he's running along with one arm here, pissing out the green
goop.
the green goop.
But this really is the whole fun and games. It's telling us this is what the world of surrogates is like.
Yeah.
And isn't it cool?
Yeah.
And he gets mowed down by the truck, pickup truck, I think they call them, and then shot eventually and destroyed. His surrogate is destroyed, and he pulls the headset off, and he's like got a bad headache, and he's in a bad condition.
Yes, he is he's good old Bruce bleeding, as we said before. Once he's kind of back and he's back in the real world and his droid's been taken away, he's contemplating everything he's learnt. We have the scene where Strickland then is awoken by Strickland is woken by the Dread leader, the Prophet, Ving Rhames.
Yeah, Profito.
And he kind of says, "Where's the gun?" And he's not, who gave you the gun? He's questioning him with two big thugs. He doesn't give much away, but then it's implied that then in the next scene, no, sorry, that doesn't happen straight away. Sorry, I was going to jump ahead, but he's like not in a good way, like with this Prophet. It doesn't seem like the Prophet's a nice guy.
No, he's not pleased with it.
And so then with the surrogate destroyed, Tom is actually then forced to interact with the real world. Yeah, and that's a great scene.
He has a moment in hospital.
Yeah, he has a moment in hospital.
And I think the significant part here is his wife comes in.
Yeah.
Because she is concerned about him.
She is.
Even though they seem to be distant.
She's still the surrogate.
She's still concerned. But you can see, and Bruce does a great job here, just that little bit of...
Yeah,
he was
hoping that the wife...
my wife's... but it's just a robot.
Just a robot.
I'm not going to get genuine empathy here.
Yeah.
But it was important because it showed that she was still genuinely concerned about him, but was not able to get out of herself.
Yes. So when he returns back home, his wife has some friends over, and this is where we have like that jacking up scene. So they give each other jolts of voltage, and
they jack each other off.
They jack each other off, basically.
I found it ironic, of course, because we just had the scene where old Mr. Greer has just had a few swigs of booze, as Bruce Willis's characters do, and sort of wanders out there and then asks his wife, do you jack?
Yeah.
And she goes, no. And like,
do you jack off? No.
And I was thinking,
do you jack off?
But it's okay to get drunk?
Yeah.
Considering this isn't a chemical going into their body to affect their consciousness. How are you judging these people for what is basically a fairly harmless pastime? But I suppose, there you go. But
they do. The thing is, in that sequence, he goes off, he gets drunk, the wife is jacking off the guys are jacking off themselves. Sounds funny now. Now that you've said that, I want to keep going with it. And they're jacking each other off, and they're having a good old jolly time.
It's a big jacking party.
Bruce Willis is just in his bedroom drinking a bottle of wine by himself. He comes out, and I like when he comes out in that hallway because he tries to walk cool, but he's drunk.
Yes.
And so there's a little moment. There's just a tiny moment there.
I think it's
it's a nice subtle moment of him adjusting the jacket. I'm cool. I'm not drunk, but he's drunk. It's good.
And Bruce does it so well.
It's a very subtle.
I don't know if he's got his own drinking problems or if he's just a good observer of that.
Such a good actor of that. But he did it really well, and then he confronts the wife and has a moment where the guy, he beats up the guy, and as you said before, they're all laughing, and it becomes a Terminator face,
That's terrifying, isn't it?
He's pounding this face, and they're all laughing, And if he was doing that to a real, like, I think he even stomps on the face, doesn't he, or something?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like, and they're all just laughing and laughing. Even the robot's laughing, you know. And then he leaves, and in the hallway of the apartment, his wife comes out, and they have this heated moment. And he's saying he wants his wife. He wants the wife he married. He wants the woman. He wants her in front of her. And she's basically denying that, saying that will never happen. And they end that discussion, and then we do actually see. I think the model, the robot, walks into the wife's room after that argument, and she's crying. She's a much older woman than the surrogate, and she's actually got quite a large scar down one of her cheeks, and she's got grey hair, and you know, so she doesn't at all look. And I liked that because it kind of gave more context to her, because we hadn't seen her before that, and so it kind of. And again, in this whole world of surrogates, where we are having all these beautiful people, it's suddenly like we've seen the reality of Bruce Willis, but Bruce is not that different to his surrogate, whereas then like this is like quite an extreme difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked that, and that happens then after this scene. It actually happens more and more. So again, you saying the beats, like as we now head from the midpoint into more seriousness of the film, we see that more and more. Like we see the real people, you know, more and more. It's revealed.
We see more people in their
real
chairs, their spaceman surrogate magic chairs.
Anyway, so he learns...
and nappies.
And stuff. He learns that VSI, the big company, then originally produced this weapon that was designed to load a virus that overloads a surrogate system and thus disabling it.
Yeah, the idea was just simply to disable all the enemy's soldiers' surrogates.
Yeah.
And in an oddly moral or ethical turn of events, the military dude says, well, when we just tested it, it killed people.
Yeah.
We immediately destroyed all of the weapons.
Yeah.
Except this one obviously got out.
Yes.
And so I was quite surprised. I'm going, wow, so they've actually painted... Usually they paint the military as going...
They do.
Well, we wanted this, it's our super secret weapon, and we're going to use it on the bad guys, and you sort of go, you creepy murderous bastard. But this one was like, we just thought, if we could just disable all their surrogates all at once...
Yeah, then they would be done, and then we could...
the war would be over.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, well, that's quite good, because, all of the controls would just sort of wake up in their little chairs and go, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
But, and when they found out it killed people, can the whole thing, that's crap.
Yeah.
So, which is, I think, is a very sensible thing.
I think it was extremely super sensible. So he has this conversation with the military general, and because he's revealed that there's still a weapon, he's like, oh, well, where is the weapon? He's like, oh, this guy has it in the reservation. Reservoir. So he goes, we'll handle this, and then takes off. So then Tom goes back because he's realised that in all of this, someone has given Strickland the weapon, and it must be his actual captain, Andrew Stone,
who would also explain then why Strickland didn't get charged with his earlier offences.
So there's some sort of connection going on with his boss and his FBI superior. And so he then kind of goes back in, and although he's been not allowed to come back into the office because of what happened earlier, he kind of makes a big scene with the other police officers in front of Stone, saying, oh, it's good that you're going over to the private sector. And then so Stone says, come into my office. And then when he's in his office, he tricks him and stabs him in the back of the head.
Yes, quite brutally.
But it's the surrogate, so the green ooze comes out. And he pulls out the chip and then logs on to his computer to see some more information, I think.
Yeah, he gets all of the data, including the weapon codes.
That's right, the weapon codes.
Downloads it all onto a USB.
At the same time, and this is a good twist in this movie, is that Jennifer Peters is sleeping in her bed. And we have this random guy suddenly like looking at her and then goes in and kills her.
Well, you realise that, in fact, it's the dude from Cantor's security. But I didn't recognize him as
No,
that
I didn't
until
recognise him that either.
after
Yeah.
when Brucey boy, Mr. Greer shoots him in the guts several times with a gun
Yeah.
to disable him.
So we sort of have this moment. It's weird, but because there's two plot points going on here. Like Tom's kind of realised, all this stuff about VSI and the military and all this sort of stuff. And instead of like kind of getting back to his partner is then murdered.
And hijacked.
And then hijacked. And then at the same time, the prophet is saying, you see that scene, he reveals that he has the weapon, the prophet, and he actually says to his goons, take this and give it to Peters, which is then like a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was unclear to me whether he was sort of being, moral. They were sort of given that idea as, okay, hand it over to the police.
Yeah.
But the way he said, and only to Peters, I went, okay, he must know the hijacking thing going on there. Military raid.
Sorry?
Military raid?
Yeah. Military raid. Always good to cue military raids.
Cue to the military raid.
Big choppers come in over the city, land on the reservoir. Why do I keep saying
reservation?
Reservation.
I'm wondering actually if any American listeners can get in on us on this, because the term reservation is what they've used to, basically the holding pens for the Native Americans.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
As like, and it was originally sort of a kind of a land deal of here you can have some of your traditional lands.
Yeah, the same thing they did here in Australia.
But it became it's referred to as a reservation, and there's been quite a lot of political and social upheaval regarding the disposition of those reservations and the people on them. So it'd be interesting to know because I don't know any of the history of that,
either.
To know whether using the term reservation for these dreads, these human purists, is in some way a mirror or a commentary on that. I don't know. So maybe someone needs to get in touch, because I'd like to know.
I would too.
If that has any...
I keep saying the wrong words. I feel like they need to tell us.
Yes. Also, could we just call them reservoirs? Is that okay?
Can they just be like dams, lakes that we just get water from?
I think traditionally or classically, the reservations are actually very low quality land.
Yeah. Very
hard to farm, very hard to live on.
Yes.
They're sort of the scrappy crap that us white guys didn't want.
Yeah. But it'd be good to get clarification.
I honestly just don't know the background to any of that.
So the military raid happens. They come in, and very quickly there's a bit of a gunfight. And in fact, the prophet is shot dead. And when the military come up, they realise that he is a surrogate. And with that, we have a flash to Cantor. Who would have thought the guy that invented surrogates is actually controlling the prophet character?
We see the last image of the prophet's view. And when the prophet got shot, I thought he must have been wearing armour or something, because he just walked out and just sort of stood there and got shot. Yeah. And I thought, he must be wearing something. And they've got to have captured him, and then there's going to be some sort of interrogation or something. But no, he's just shot dead. He's just dead. Again, the military were very, very kind in this. They said, no shooting, especially the human targets, unless you absolutely have to. And then one of the guys got shot in the leg, and he really didn't take it very well.
No,
he went, he kind of looked, sad or like a kid getting hurt. So that was quite good, and they shot back, and they were very reserved for their shooting.
Yeah, and they shot back but they still took hostages.
Yeah, when hostages, captives,
when prisoners.
Yeah, well, as soon as the people sort of dropped their guns and put their hands up,
they didn't just keep an eye on them. Yeah.
Whereas I got to think that the military now are kind of
just shoot.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's what they're training. Their training is to neutralise their enemy. They're not there to. They're not police officers.
No, that's right.
They're not trying to arrest people.
No,
and they're there to try and recover a very deadly weapon that was going to be used to kill their friends. So it was quite nice. It was this very unusual depiction of the military, I think.
I think so.
Military under Candace. No.
So the military. So he confronts his wife. Actually, Tom. He comes where she's working, and he pleads with her now.
And she's the equivalent of a beautician.
She is sort of like a modern. You see her like she peels off someone's face, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's going to adjust the cheekbones or something.
And he's pleading with her to be her, and be the couple that they should be again. He's just harping on always.
And I think she says something like, that beautiful, strong woman that you fell in love with, she's dead.
She's gone. This is who it is now.
And then she vacates her surrogate.
Yeah.
Just leaves. And we do get a shot back at her.
Yeah.
She's upset and she's got this whole bunch of pills in pill bottles there. So she's clearly has not coped well with the loss of the child.
No. And that's an interesting... See, again, you saying, clean out the bedroom, sure. But this is the thing, they're not coping, are they? Neither of them... He's probably gone into his work and she's, gone into her pills and her body, and they have this escapism of the surrogates, don't they?
Yeah.
This is one of the issues of the surrogates.
Flash to Surrey in bed, staring at his phone at night, every night. Wake up in the morning, scrolling through his phone.
He's still scrolling.
Next to his wife doing the exact same thing. And
that's right. They're both just doing that. Scroll. So...
No, sometimes I hold my wife's hand.
Oh, do you? That's nice of you.
Not her scrolling hand. That would be stupid. I'd get in trouble.
You would get in trouble. Yeah, that's creeping me out now. The holding of the hand bit.
Okay, I don't know. Because you got to hold the phone with one hand and scroll. I don't know whose hand.
Your thumb? We have an opposable thumb and you can hold hands.
Yeah, okay.
And take photos and just all one-handed.
Well, we won't do the photo thing. That sounds a bit creepy. Photos of hand holding?
Yes, I know who would do that.
That's going to be in trouble.
That's going to get no likes on Instagram, so you know.
There'd be naked hands.
Oh, hello. After that, Tom tricks his boss and steals the weapon. I was just thinking that's funny. He tricks the boss and he steals those weapon codes. Okay, and then he's got them. He's got them on the laptop.
Yeah, he's got a laptop and he jumps in the car. I think we've got a little bit sketchy with the timeline exactly.
We have a little bit there.
But he's in the car with Peter.
He's gotten this information. I think he's already stolen that. It happened before, but he's gotten this information. That's right. Peters meets him. They meet on a bench or something. And he's like, downloaded this information. And she's like, okay, she escorts him out. But we sort of know that Peters is a bit dodgy here, I think. Yeah. And they get in the car and they're driving along and she's like, well, we've got to get the codes to really unleash it all. And
then she orders him, says, what I want you to do now is find the codes.
Yeah.
And he does take a moment to sort of, what? That's a bit odd way of talking to a partner. But he does it because, let's face it, why would you suspect that she was hijacked? You're not supposed to be able to hijack.
No.
It was mentioned there because Cantor's son was borrowing his suits. And they said, but you've got to be neuroencoded and so forth. And Cantor's like, well, I freaking designed
this whole thing, so I know how to get around. Yeah.
So he downloads these codes, and as soon as he downloads the codes and she sees that that's done, she calls in and says, my partner Peters has been in a car accident on the corner of Mayweather and something or other. Yeah. And of course, that's just when he looks up and sees the sign Mayweather come up. And he's like, what? Yeah. I haven't been in a badushka and a car crashed into the side of the thing. I thought it was quite nice that it wasn't a fatal car crash. It was relatively mild.
Yeah. Anyway, she takes off on foot and he kind of gets his bearings and then he does a Bruce Willis thing. This car's trashed, but he just gets in and starts driving.
Just like Bruce's body.
Drives up. And I love it. He goes along the sidewalk and takes out about 4 surrogates, do on the front of the car. And these people are like, oh.
My kids were watching at that session. They loved that scene.
Yeah, it's a good scene.
I'd explained to them they were all robots. Yeah. Earlier when we were watching.
It's funny.
And then, so when they saw that happen, they knew what was going on there. It's just like robots.
Yeah.
And the woman, Jennifer
she also,
Peters,
this is where she becomes Terminator.
She's bouncing across rooftops. She's jumping on top of cars. And he shoots through the roof at her and she sort of dodges. And,
she's a Terminator.
Oh, yes. She gets away.
She does. He crashes the car, but she escapes with the codes.
Yeah, and then he hides in amongst all the mannequins, basically, all the other surrogates, because he doesn't have his ID chip in. They're searching for ID chips. Yeah. It's like they've forgotten how to do police work. Yeah. They're going, no, he's a meat bag. And so they wander off through the back.
So he immediately heads to Cantor's home, and he discovers that Cantor's, like when he walks in, it's great. He walks in and there's all the mannequins, the surrogates are all in those charging stations, and there's the Prophet. There's a couple of versions of the Prophet. There's the little kid. There's the son. So
the security guard as well.
Security
There's a
guard,
security
yeah.
guard
So he
one.
like sees all these different people, and we see them too. And when he gets to him, he realizes that he's also been Jennifer Peters as well. So
he just logs off from Jennifer.
Yeah.
And it says something, well, it's nice to meet you flesh to flesh.
Yes. No, but before that, Jennifer.
Oh, geez, we this is a time travel movie.
It is. So before Tom gets to him, that's the thing. It cuts from him. Jennifer Surrogate is at FBI headquarters and has broken into where Fat Surrey is.
Yeah.
And taken over. He's got Fat.
It's Fat Surrey.
It's Fat Surrey. Fat Surrey is tied up.
I tell you, Jennifer, what are you doing? Why'd you act like a tree and leave?
Yeah, and she's loading up the codes, which is a bit of trouble. And Fat Surrey can't do anything. He's got the gaffer tape around his big fat face. And so that's all happened here, and she's uploading these codes, and the police know it, and Stone knows it. Stone walks up and is like, what the bloody, what are you doing
What
here?
the blazers?
What the bloody hell's going on here? Or enter, Reece Darby, to come in. What the bloody hell's going on here?
It's pretty good, though, because I realised at this point here that, he's going to upload the code to all the surrogates, and something like 95% of the world's population uses surrogates, and it's going to all the surrogates.
All the Surreys.
And I thought, this is big.
Yeah.
This is like talk about some stakes here. We're going to have 95% of the world's population killed. That would have been I was going to say really good, but I don't know if good's the right term, but it would have been very exciting.
So this is where it cuts back, and Cantor, you're right, Cantor's like just logging off Jennifer, and he reveals to Tom that, look, the whole reason why he created the Surreys was for people like himself, disabled people that could live in the real world.
To empower people.
To empower them and live normal lives. But then when VSI took that away and they went commercial, it all became outside of what he wanted. And then, with everything that happened...
The death of his son,
it's like, what's the point of this? And so he's uploaded the things, and he disconnects, and he takes a cyanide pill.
Yeah, I don't know if it's...
Well, that's what it says.
It said, hang on, let me look at the notes. Oh, it does say cyanide pill.
It does.
Oh, well, it must be.
I'm going to go with cyanide.
It's underlined.
It's underlined. Anyway, he takes something that annihilates him.
He dies very quickly.
And I like Bruce just goes, oh, well, out of the chair.
Pulls him out of the chair, whacks the headset on, jumps into Jennifer's body, and then rips the gaffer tape off
Fat Surrey.
Fat knee. And it says, how do I stop this? What am I doing? And it's like, it's got the little countdown.
Yeah,
and the
it's
red
coming.
button. The funny thing, of course, someone had to have, this is always in these
Yeah,
UIs.
I know, it's always
Someone had to
like-
have programmed specifically a user interface
Yeah.
for when you're uploading a killer virus, and
Yes.
you've got to make it red.
Because it's not like that in reality. You just you press the button, and it would upload it, right? And it might be taken up to 100%, but there's no interface saying 5, 10, 15%.
No, and it's not red
Why
and
would you
flash,
waste that?
red and
Red and
flashing.
flashing. 95%.
Could you imagine the
97.
requirements document? You'd be the programmer there writing this thing, and there'd be requirements like, okay, now we need the death screen. In the case of a deadly virus that's going to kill everyone, it's got to flash red and red, this particular red to this particular grey, and the countdown has to go yellow and
There has to
black.
be a 9-minute countdown, okay?
Yeah, okay.
9 minute. Why does it be 9 minutes? It could just take a second. No, it's a 9-minute countdown.
So let me get straight. You don't want me to automatically stop a deadly virus upload. No. It's got to have a countdown.
It's got to have a count.
And it's got to flash. Okay, do you want a progress bar on that? Ooh, you can do a progress bar. Yeah. Show me what that
progress
looks
would be
like.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. You do that one. Yeah.
And should the progress bar change from red to green as it goes? Yes, please. Yeah, definitely. Start at green and go to red, because red is like dead, okay?
Okay, I'll do it. This is really one of the weirdest things I've had to program, but I'll do it.
You're paying me on Fiverr. It's okay. I'll just do it.
Whatevs.
Yeah. So anyway, that program is running in this film, and he is asking Fat Surrey, how do we stop this run-in program? And he said he thinks about it. He thinks about it for a fair bit, doesn't he? He has a bit of a think, Fat Surrey.
There you go. He
And
goes
he's
through a
sort
few
of like, "No, I don't
percentages.
think-" and then he realizes that he could not stop. He can't stop it, but he could insulate
He could
the users.
he do his buffering. He calls it buffer them.
Yeah,
which is,
buffer
it
them.
basically disconnects the people from their
the going right back. Good
control.
little what do they call it? A white herring or whatever. Going right back to what he said earlier in the story that, well, it's a bit morally grey, but I can pause them.
Yes.
So I can like buffer them. I can just stop them in their tracks. And
it stops the signal going back and forward.
Yeah.
So when this virus goes off,
the
it
virus
won't,
obviously
it won't be able to feed back to the person.
kind of like a sneeze that doesn't happen, I suppose. So
I
it's,
hate that.
I'm stopping. I'm disconnecting from.
You
the
stop at the ach and you then get to the oo.
Yeah, everyone hates that. So he does that, and it does insulate. It does work. And then Fat Surrey's telling him, well, then you've got to like stop it all, otherwise all the surrogates will die. And there's a great big yes/no button, sorry, as well. Again, that's been programmed.
Funny
in,
thing
right?
is like, yeah, okay, just press yes, and like yes was already highlighted. You only had to press enter, but instead he put the finger over Y, which probably wouldn't have worked. It was
very
probably
DOS mode, isn't it? It's like back in the old days of Y. And
Y and N. It probably would have been an enter key, or a touch screen, but you know.
You'd imagine it would be touchscreen in this
Destroy
version.
all surrogates?
Or no. Or keep all surrogates alive.
So yeah.
All Surrey's dead, all Surrey's alive. All Surrey's dead, all Surrey's alive.
I know, and I was looking at that going,
It'd be a little 3D image of you circling around.
This is good, this is good. I hope he destroys all the surrogates. Because I love it when movies do something big.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like, who was it? Fight Club, and spoiler warning, in case you haven't seen Fight Club, at the end they're
Pause
gonna,
now, go watch it.
Go back. They're going to destroy, it's almost science fiction, it's psychology, but they're going to destroy all the banking infrastructure. So they wipe out all debt, which would be interesting. And he stops Tyler Durden. Is that his name?
Yeah, Tyler Durden.
But it's only to cure himself of his split personality, because in the background you still see explosions and these big buildings, and I just went, oh, that's too cool, because there's like, we don't know what the outcome of that is, but it's very cool that it happened. And the same with this, I was like going, oh, please have them destroyed, and sure enough, hits the no, don't save the surrogates.
Sorry.
And then my kids just pissed themselves laughing. And all these people just like, city streets full of people. Everyone just plopped on the ground.
Really well done that, hey, because they just like went clunk.
Yeah, plop, plop, plop,
Good
plop
sound
on
effects.
the ground.
Yeah.
Cars rolled off the road. They didn't have big, massive accidents. They got fail safes in the cars, obviously, which is nice.
But there was a few crashes
they
and
sort
clangs.
of rolled off and banged into stuff. And,
Yeah.
And it's just like people everywhere just dropping like flies.
And the thing is, like, they showed a bit of that, but there would have been some more crashes, wouldn't there? I mean, like train drivers or anything, like.
Yeah, honestly. They said no fatalities have been recorded, and I was like, that seems a little bit too sugar sweet. There would be.
I think there'd be something. Because flying a plane.
Yeah, but there would just be surrogates on board. But you've got to think there must be really that many people. Anyway, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
I suppose that's the thing. If everyone is a surrogate, well, then it hasn't really killed any surrogates, has it? If a plane fell over.
A lot of material damage.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, airplanes,
trains and ships,
all the rest of it would be just going all over the place.
Yeah.
But then all the people started to come out of their homes, and they're all wearing like
pajamas,
robes and slippers, and they're all looking a little bit scruffy and unkempt. And it's great. They're sort of walking out, looking at stuff and poking at the surrogates.
Yeah.
And we hear the news report over top, essentially confirming that, all around the world, Beijing, Paris, and so forth, the same things happened. All the surrogates have gone offline, which means that the news reporter must have been doing it.
He must have been. And then returning home, Tom does share an emotional embrace with Maggie, his wife, in her real film.
His wife.
Yeah. So they do actually have a moment.
And I hope that they put away all the kids' stuff and remodel the room as like a
Yeah.
an office. Or something.
Well, I mean, I guess the film, and then that's pretty much, as you say, the film ends with that aerial view of just everyone collapsed, and they're on their own. They got no idea. VSI has gone quiet. Got no response to it.
Yeah,
so
they're asking when the surrogate system will come back online, and VSI's like, nope.
don't know. 3 days. 3 days, everything will be okay. But then rotting corpses in the street, maybe. Yeah, who knows?
Well, the surrogates.
The surrogates, yeah.
But they design them to rot just to be disgusting.
That's right.
Yes. Well, it was like a zombie apocalypse at the end, wasn't it?
It was very much like that.
And that would be interesting if then the surrogates retained some base level of intelligence and went mad.
Well, they did jack up. They're like just going to jack them off, and they're back.
The whole... Because there'd be a few jack-off parties there where people would have been caught mid-jack.
Yes, mid-jack. Okay, with the latter results, for me, Surrey, I am putting my Surrey at number 14. Surrogates is coming in at number 14.
Ah, it's coming in hard and fast.
It's coming in. I reckon middle of the range for this one. It's pretty much mid-range, just a little bit below it. So above it, I've got The Beyond, and below it, I've got Darkest Dawn. I feel like it fits in there quite well because it's kind of I liked the idea of surrogates. I like the idea of it, investigating that social issues that we have as humans, like social media. But yeah, so I'm putting it in at number 14. How about yourself?
Just under Gantz, above After Earth. Surrogates. Nice. And as I said, I'm kind of not happy with having this ladder now. I want to redesign it because
Well, we might for 2021.
Because you go in there and you just finish watching a film and you go, was this better than Cargo? Or not better, but was this more influential on me than Cargo? Or was it? Did it pull me in like Paul? Or I'm not sure how to address this because they're all so very different.
They are.
But we are gonna do a redress.
I think we need to have to do a redress of the ladder.
That might happen in some sort of super secret special episode. That's super secret special people can get a hold of.
Oh, hello.
Or it could just be like episode 43 or something.
Our next episode is
we're
a super
there.
special episode.
We're getting there, and we've mentioned this a couple of times now. I think where we said we're looking at some exciting things or some changes, some ways of souping stuff up a bit, and I think we'll get there.
Changes?
In the new year.
We're already doing that. Changes. So, what about the science behind surrogates? Sorry.
The science. Well, we've spoken a little bit about this at the start there when it comes to things like social media and our desire to have avatars. And we haven't done the movie Avatar, have we? Because that's much the same sort of deal, isn't it? Where they've got these...
Well, they do have an avatar, yeah.
Bodies that they inhabit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. The only thing I sort of really think about with this film is some of the psychological experiments or psychosomatic experiments that have been done. I'm sure you've seen now on YouTube these gag. It's the rubber hand gag. Well, it's an experiment. It's a famous experiment. Can't remember who did it first. Jeez, it's so well done. But the idea is basically you put your two hands on a bench. So a person will put the hands on the bench.
Yeah.
But one hand is, off to the left hand is off to the side, and then there'll be a screen hiding that arm. And just on this side of the screen is a rubber arm. And then someone will touch the rubber hand and your real hand at the same time in the same place relative.
Yeah.
And they'll like stroke your fingers and tap and touch and use different like feathers and scratchy like hairbrushes and different sensations. And you'll do that for a little while so that when you're touching the ring finger of the rubber hand, someone is touching the ring finger in the same way on your real hand. And essentially your consciousness transfers to the rubber hand because then what will happen very suddenly, someone will hit the rubber hand with a mallet and invariably the person screams. They don't feel any real pain, but they have the exact same reflex as if someone has just struck their real hand, and they hold their hand up to look at it and inspect. Like it's an unconscious thing, because they have genuinely extended their consciousness and awareness into this rubber hand.
Yeah, right.
Because the brain's not nearly as clever as we like to think it is. It's feeling touches that it associates with touches to the finger, and it can see a hand that is approximately in the right spot being touched on the finger.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's yours. And we get this also in other YouTube videos that you might see, where you might see the greatest ball shots of all time, where you'll see the skateboarder ollie up onto a rail, the skateboard will slip aside, they'll hit onto the rail painfully, fall off onto their skateboard, fall down on the ground. And I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't at some point in watching this series of videos where people continually get hit in the nuts, you don't start wincing and shuddering in sympathy. And it's the same deal as that you start inhabiting their body.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be nut shots, but there's any of those ones where you see them dancing on the table, you know they're about to fall off, and they do, and the table hits them in the back, and it almost feels painful. You have that reaction, that response. So if we're talking these surrogates, then it wouldn't take a lot, it wouldn't take as much as we might think in order to be able to inhabit the body of a robotic surrogate.
Yeah, right.
I think also we get the same thing. For example, you're saying, oh, yes, but it's a machine. It's different. But think about when you're learning to drive a car. Initially, if you're trying to judge where you are in a car park or in the lane on a road or where the middle line of the lane is, you first have to, you're really concentrating when you're first learning to drive. Or if you get into an unfamiliar car, like a big truck or something. But very quickly, you start to almost just intuitively know the boundaries and limits.
Very true.
And, you're pulling into car parks and straightening up and doing reverse parking, and you're doing stuff almost, you swear you can feel the location of that. So we do have this amazing power. Like, I don't know if other animals have it, and I think they probably do to some extent, to be able to project consciousness. The fact that our arm is physically connected to us with nerves and muscle seems to be only accidental. There was a previous episode here, I think it was the Beyond, where they're putting the people into
they do in
people
those suits.
2.0s.
Yeah, the
suits.
brain goes into the
and in there I talked about there was a human brain interface experiment where the guy was concentrating on using his thoughts to spell out words. And the guy goes away, after a big heavy session of doing this, like practicing these particular two words, distinguishing between the two of them. The experimenter goes away and comes back, and the guy says, can I have a glass of water or something?
Yeah.
And it's like, none of that was in the test, and it was a spontaneous transference of the person's mind into controlling this. So there is a genuine thought, and it happens with, and I'd like to hear from anyone who's missing a limb and has a prosthetic, but there's a genuine transference of consciousness where people with prosthetics, for example, do become in time quite agile with them. Even though they get no sensation or anything like that, they're able to nonetheless physically place them in relative to their relation to their body. Like they can close their eyes, touch their nose with a fake hand, which if you couldn't imagine placing that yourself in inhabiting that fake hand, then you wouldn't be able to touch your nose with it. Yeah. So I mean that's where I was going with this surrogates here. It's very interesting, and I can't wait to hear more in the field of science, because some of the experiments that showed at the start, that 14 years ago, they're real experiments. Like the monkey controlling the arm to get the food and things. Yeah, so it's it even happens, I guess, when you're talking about neuroplasticity with stroke victims.
Yeah, and also there has been more and more surgeries, haven't there? Of like, there was a guy that had I think a face transplanted.
Face transplant.
But all of that involves that kind of, external, one person's perception and their neuro wiring into that new limb, and whether that's going to work or not.
Whether you're going to accept that it is you.
Yeah, so that's in the reality. In Surrogates, we're talking about, machines that are walking around outside of
whole
us.
Body transplantation, basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Projecting your mind.
But it also, on one side, I see this film as not that far-fetched. It really doesn't feel that far-fetched. But then on another way, we haven't really probably got robotics that are that sophisticated yet, have we?
No, the movements and control, it's getting there. And
in this film, it's everyone is going for the photoshopped younger version of themselves, but I presume the film doesn't go into, we see them dancing and we see them doing things like and they're making out and all this kind of thing. So you presume that these robots can almost do everything, can't you? And actually there's that, when they first go to that apartment, they're looking for the woman at the blonde, the hot blonde at the start. They go to her apartment, the owner or the landlord or whatever, she's like, oh, I'm in a Surrogates that's like a rental.
A loaner,
and she can't open the keys, with the keys, she can't open the door. And she's like, oh, she's got big fat fingers. And she goes, oh, can you do it? And it's like, so that's the initial style of robot, isn't it? And then it's like, but these robots, they're just like a human.
It's also funny though that she, rather than turning up in her flesh, because her surrogate is in the shop, you'd think, okay, my car's in the shop, I'll just ride a bike or I'll walk. Yeah, nah.
No, I'm still going to lend out a loan.
Going to get this real crappy, it had no hair. It just had it looked a bit creepy even.
It did, because it was like a face on a robot.
Big rubber finger hand thingos that couldn't manipulate the key properly. And it's just she'd rather do that than just walk there herself and be there in person.
So even for police officers, she's still willing to do that. So, but it's pretty advanced robotics, isn't it? The level that they're at.
It's very, because you look at what we have. And the big issue is moving a three-dimensional object through multiple rotations and axes of movement in a three-dimensional space over time to achieve goals. It's really hard to map that sort of thing out. Mapping things in a real three-dimensional space is difficult. Humans do it.
The weight of a technology
literal
weight of a robot.
Yeah, these things aren't light. And they showed that when the surrogates got ripped apart, they had clearly a technology that is beyond what we have. It looked almost organic, biological. There were sort of tubes and squiggly bits and the green fluid. There's always green and blue fluid. For some reason, they always choose one of those two colours. Although I guess in Alien, it's that white milk, waxy sort of stuff.
But also, I was thinking of that it's cool when Bruce Willis, when he's forced to then after the hospital, he comes out with Peters and he walks down the street and she's like, oh, you don't even have anything for the anxiety. And he's kind of walking down the street and it's like he's the robot. He's the alien in the street.
Yeah, people are bumping into him.
The robots are bumping into him and stuff like this. But you'd also imagine, I don't think they emphasized it, but these robots, when Bruce Willis being able to jump and Peters they can jump on top of a car, they do they're Terminators. So if you actually did walk down the street and you didn't walk in their kind of style, you would be an alien and you probably would get bummed over, wouldn't you? And they would annihilate you.
They'd be heavy. They'd be like being hit by a rugby player or something, donk. Yeah. Every time.
But I liked that. I liked that he kind of, when he walked down the street, he was kind of bumping into them and bumping into things.
Okay, and next week we have Replicas. Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
And
there we go. Hugo says Replicas.
That's one bark up for Hugo, saying Replicas is a go. Till then, see ya.